Welcome back to Cow Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the accomplishments of Albert Pujols this year, getting into the 700 club. And we will be pivoting to something that is not an accomplishment, and that is getting fired on your day off. Or Jason seems to think it's not a firing. I simply call it a firing that has a scheduled date. You know how you got ways to send emails, but to send them in the future? That's what the Boston Celtics did to Ime Udoka. Okay?
Before I go deeper in my take, let's tell the folks what we're talking about here.
Go ahead. You tell them.
You're the lead host, sir. I'll trying to let you do your job, man. But
Hey, go for it. Go for it.
I'm taking your job. I took your job. No. So essentially, folks, Ime Udoka is the head coach. Well, he was the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and it was discovered that he had a consensual, basically, affair with a female staff member of the Boston Celtics, and the team discovered it along with some other information, and they decided to suspend him. And yes, I did say suspend because as of right now, he still has a job, but he's just suspended. And this is based off a team policy that they have, or organization policy. It has nothing to do with the NBA. This is all the Boston Celtics they're doing, and that's that. Now, we do have to point out, as some of you may not know, that when I did say affair, because Ime Udoka is currently married, and his wife is currently pregnant. And some of you also may know that his wife is Nia Long, very famed actress. Some of you may know her from the Friday movie. Some of you may know her from Fresh Prince of Bel Air. But that is his wife, and yeah. Now, yeah. So Terrence, that's what's going on, folks, and we will talk about that. But as I also said, despite what Terrence said, that as of right now he is suspended, I will have to agree that a firing probably is going to happen. Because from my stance, okay, he's suspended for the whole year, the entire 22-23 season. Let's say they don't fire him and they bring him back to the season. Their narrative isn't going to go away. That's still going to, not that the commentators during games are going to bring that up, but everybody else is. I mean, he comes back, the first post game press conference comes up. What do you think the team's going to talk? What do you think the reporters are going to ask him? I'm asking him about that. He can answer it or not. That's up to him. I'm going to ask him. And it may happen for the next few because they're going to try to bait him into talking about it. Which he probably would at some point because he's going to want to get out of the way because they're going to ask. But if you're the Celtics, do you even want that? The fact that somebody from within the organization leaked it out in the first place, and yes, folks, it came from within the organization. I'm sure no one's going to admit to that, but it did. Every sports organization out there, including the NCAA, has people inside of it who leak stories out to the media for whatever purpose, whatever reason. It happens. And this is pretty much what happened here. Now, again, whoever leaked it had no clue what their point was of doing it, other than wanting to get in the news. It could, hell, for all we know, it could have been the person that he had the affair with. For all we know, because I find it interesting that again came out to the media. Also, we know that Ime Udoka was part of this, but we have no clue who the female party was with the staff. And it seems like they're protecting her from that, which is what
Actually,
it is.
We do know her name.
What is it?
I'm not gonna put that out here because
if you're referring to Allison Feaster, I think there's an article that said that that's actually not true.
Okay, well then it's probably best, since there's clearly a debate about who it is, then we probably shouldn't put the name out there.
Well, okay, fine. But what I'm saying, I'm just telling you that the rumors were that was Allison Feaster, and apparently that's been not true. But what I'm saying is that's interesting that whoever got leaked all this stuff, it got leaked out that it was Ime Udoka involved, but not the other person. So all that stuff's interesting.
Why is it interesting when one of them clearly had a higher obligation to not do the shit?
Well, first of all, wait a minute. So wait. Who says that he has a higher, responsibility to not do it, where they're both involved? Because again, I had to pull up the Celtic policy, but since they were both involved in the relationship, wouldn't it be both of them?
Well, let me put it to you like this. In many corporations, many companies have a strict policy that if, for example, you, let's say, report to someone or you outrank someone, that you literally cannot engage in these type of affairs and
But we don't
inter-off.
know who the other person is to even know that she reports or whatever to him.
Okay, here's what we do know. Ime Udoka is sitting out a year. You
Facts.
probably wouldn't be doing that. Here's what we do know. He was asked to stop and he kept going.
Now, when you say that, you're referring to like inappropriate comments that kept going, or like
I'm
what do
referring
you mean?
to conduct in general.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is clearly one shoe has dropped and his is it.
Well, that's that we know of because okay. So whoever the staff person is, the public national media probably have no clue who that person is. Even if you were to name them, we're like, it would be like, who's that? But you know Ime Udoka because he was on TV, during all the games, including when they were in
You
the
know who
finals.
he is
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm
he's
saying exactly.
the highest ranking person in his organization that actually shows up and coaches the Boston Celtics. That's what it is.
You just said the long. You could just say he's the coach, bro. You went the long way around to say he's just a coach. Um, I shouldn't say just a coach, but you know what I mean. But exactly, that's why this is a story because we know who he is. If it had been two other people involved in the same thing, that people that who aren't on TV, we wouldn't be talking about it. ESPN wouldn't be talking about it more than the
We
Brett
would be
Favre.
talking about it, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that it's not an issue. And that's why
I
I'm
didn't say
bringing
that.
up. And that's why I'm bringing up. You know, I'm aware of like individuals who engage in inner office shenanigans, uh, and in a previous life, perhaps I would have done that. But now I'm at a certain point in my life where I desire to have, you know, direct reports and what have you. Yeah, I wouldn't even consider dipping my pen in the company ink. Now, had you asked me that 20 years ago, my answer would have been dramatically different. Number one, I would not have been married. Number two, I would not have been entrusted to actually have somebody report to me. And that's why I'm saying that's the star of the show.
Not disagreeing with anything you just said. I'm just referring to the fact that I just found it interesting as a one person being named in this, but not the other. Now, again, doesn't matter in the long run. Hell, the fact that he's even involved with it doesn't really matter. But because again, he's the coach of Boston Celtics, because we know who his wife is, that makes it even bigger story. We know his wife's pregnant. All this stuff's part of it. You know. Now, obviously, other coaches and other leagues other teams, organizations may have the same issue, but because he is who he is, who his wife is, wife's pregnant. That's why this is a big story on ESPN. And I actually asked you if we really want to talk about this because of the Jerry Springer-ish aspect to it. Um, Now, obviously, the Jerry Springer part was kind of a joke, but kind of laughing, but very serious.
I think there are individuals that are going to kind of lampoon this no matter what, because from their perspective, oh, it's a victimless crime. I'm like, well, say that to whoever is involved on the other end of this, because not only is the organization affected, the league is affected, even though the league didn't make a decision. Um, lastly, the players are affected. There are families affected. I mean, what's really going to do Ime Udoka in is when the shit went sideways and it was clear something was going to come out. Neil Long wasn't even notified until like the shit was ready to hit TMZ. Like, that's ludicrous. You know, this fucking bombshell is headed for you and everybody you hold dear to you, and you don't say anything. That is worse than the crime. Straight up. Like, I'm not defending stepping out on your mate. I'm not defending uh lying to your mate. I'm saying if the shit about to go sideways and you know everybody and their mama gonna find out, and you don't even have the common decency to at least come clean and say, okay, some shit's about to go down and you need to brace yourself.
And that's another thing too. So even though he's not a player, even though I guess he may be a player, but he's not a player. Um, and we all know that when it comes to pro athletes, we all know that infidelity in their relationships and marriages, it happens, right? We all know that. But it's when we actually find out that someone's doing it, that's when it becomes, oh damn, you know. That's why it's, and that's again another reason why it's a story too, because it's putting a highlight on stuff we already know. So you would think it wouldn't be that interesting, but it still is. And which is kind of funny in a way if you think about it. Like, is this really? Like, it's a big deal, obviously, to their family, Udoka and Nia Long. It should be a big deal, but why is it a big deal to us as society? Again, it's that Jerry Springer type culture. I hate using that because it may not be a comparable or rather smart reference, but I think you get what I'm saying. People love like I say people love watching
People
train
love
wrecks.
mess. People love a good train wreck. I think is what you're saying. Um,
Exactly.
and
Hence
I
why they had the
agree with you.
Kardashians. So
I agree with you. People love, shout out to Mary Kondo. People love mess, um, especially if it's not their mess. And so, for a lot of us, some of us are gravitating towards it as a story because clearly some shit went down, and it's a disaster piece for everyone involved. Where it is not a Jerry Springer situation to me is while at some point it may, and I know you mentioned the word consensual because yeah, clearly at some point it was consensual, and then at a certain point it wasn't consensual because nobody gets suspended for a year if everything's on the up and up, and I'll leave it at that.
well, there's a certain term that keeps getting quote quoted like a quotation in there. It says involvement in an improper, in quotations, consensual relationship. So yeah, so I think they're acknowledging that whatever relationship they had, probably we'll say that was the sexual part of it or whatever, was probably consensual. Which is what I was asking before when it comes to inappropriate conduct or comments after the fact. I think that might have what got him dimed out and got him in trouble, as opposed to the actual sexual affair that might have happened. Um, so yeah, yeah, the difference in consensual, but I think also too why that consensual is put out there, and I think I want to clarify that there was no sexual assault involved, because obviously that would be a totally different ball game when it comes to what we're talking about here. You know what I mean? It's in the Kobe Bryant and Colorado situation. It was basically an affair, and there you go.
Here's all I really have to say about it, and then Jason, I'll let you close it out. Do do you see a way forward for this man to come back coaching this team in a year?
Okay, so I describe myself as as an optimistic realist. So the optimistic side says, not that I care about the Boston Celtics, but the optimistic side says yes, because if they were to bring him back after a year, yes, there's a possibility of that people could forget, but we know really that it couldn't. Or again, like I said, when he comes back, like I said, it may be a thing for like the first few games when he comes back, no one's going to care. It won't be talked about, at least not by the media or as far as the actual media. Some of the tabloids may be talking like if Nia Long stays with him and she comes to the games, yeah, Nia Long's seen at the games in support of Udokah. It could be all that. But if you're from the Boston Celtics side, if you think that even after a year him coming back and it can quickly go away after him talking about it, whatever, yeah, you'll bring him back, because the fact of the matter is he's a good coach. Clearly, got him to the finals last year, even though they lost, right? So if their focus is okay, we don't want to lose the coaching aspect of him because obviously he has part of it. Now, now some of that may depend on what happens this next season. If they can do well without him, they might say, you know what, team's still good. We got to the finals again, or Eastern Conference Finals. Let's move on. So yes, is there a way for him to come back? Yeah, easily. But I think the issue. Well, put it this way: if he lasts the entire suspension 1 year without getting fired, that's a sign. Because honestly, I don't know why they don't fire him right now. What's the point of the suspension? If you don't like what he did, why don't you just fire him? So I kind of feel like this suspension is more of the Celtics saying, "Hey, let's wait and see. Let's make sure no other issues come up first before you just go ahead and outright fire him." But again, so if he makes it the entire year, then that may be a sign, okay, they're willing to take him back, as opposed to just firing him next month or whatever, or anytime during the next year. So that's that.
I think that gives us a reason to just keep an eye on this story, because clearly everything hasn't come out. This is only what we know, but I'll just share. I don't see a way forward unless someone makes some amazing about face. Not to mention, you got other women in that organization still. So no matter what happens with this one individual that, from all accounts, hasn't been named yet, you still have other women in the workplace. And sexual harassment culture in a male-dominated industry, those issues aren't going away. The amount of scrutiny on the Celtics isn't going away. The NBA at large. I mean, I don't see a way forward, but holy mother of God, is there going to be a story if this guy somehow magically says, "Hey, thanks for holding it down for a year, baby, I'm back."
Yeah, I mean, this, folks, we're probably going to talk about this again if down the road he gets fired and they come out with more information about why they fired him. So there's so much more to say about this based on stuff Terrence just said. In the sake of the timing for the show, I think we should rest until they actually do fire him, if they do.
Yeah, or at least until the next update. My God. All right, that concludes our segment on the untimely or timely postponement of the coaching career of one Ime Udoka. And with that said, we'll wrap up the show.